with Marvin Hagler, the shaven-haired, undisputed middleweight champion of the world, who I must say, if he stared like that at the lift with me, I'd be a bit scared. But to share a ring with him in the 20-foot area here where you really can't hide is a problem. The referee is just making sure the judges are in position. Octavio Mayran from Mexico, whom we've seen in Britain. And the crowd really wild before the first bell. This in Boston is virtually the hometown of the middleweight champion of the world in his first defense against Fulgencio Obelmejias, who mercifully is cut short to Fully Obel from Venezuela and top ranked because he's unbeaten. The last time that I saw Obel was in Italy on the same bill as Kevin Finnegan and Salvamini, but it was such a mismatch there, I really couldn't judge him. He defeated Freddie Johnson from Miami, and before that was in Montreal in 1976 in the Olympic Games when he lost in the first series to a Cuban, but there was no disgrace in that. Good stylist, Obel, and very tall, and could conceivably give Hagler problems in the opening rounds, but really this fellow's so confident after defeating Alan Minter in 3 rounds at Wembley last September. The fight that we'll never forget, both the troubles in the ring and regrettably afterwards. But what a good fighter he is, the southpaw from Brockton, Massachusetts, the hometown of the late Rocky Marciano. Hagler, full of venom, but knows how to duck and dive from punches. I don't think that's why he's had his head shaved, but he really can slip a punch or two. He's not easy to nail. Alan Minter's manager, Doug Bidwell from Crawley, is in Boston to see this fight because he's angling to try and get a rematch for Minter. Not going to be easy because they're already talking about a return between Hagler and Vito Antuofermo, who fought a 15 rounds draw in Las Vegas, when I think the majority of judges thought Hagler just won anyway, and then Minter went on to defeat Antuofermo twice for the championship. And there's all kinds of challenges lined up for Hagler, but he's got to deal with this one first. A very capable boxer. We want to see what he's like really away from home in the hotbed of Boston. And I say hotbed, but outside it's below freezing. And he's had to wrap himself up the whole time here because he's just not used to the atmosphere. And I should imagine just facing Hagler is enough to send a cold shiver through the body. Well, a satisfying round, obviously, for Fully Obel, who's not only satisfied to last the first round, but considers that he won it. But there's a long way to go. Scheduled, of course, for 15 minutes. They're both 28. Obel was 28 on New Year's Day. Hagler, been around a bit in this business, lost only 2 points decisions and reversed both of them, and in style. 6'1". You don't often get that with a middleweight challenger. You really don't. 30 fights, the Venezuelan. Inside the distance, 28. And I remember him well now as I watch him as an amateur. I ignored him really in Italy because it was no credit, that match, either to himself or the boxing commissions, to let that one go. It was a ridiculously one-sided match. But he's giving Hagler a fair start here. Seems to have shed the pre-fight nerves. Good stand-up boxer, and you wonder who teaches a boy like this to box in this style in Venezuela. The only time I've been there is when George Foreman knocked out Ken Norton, and you could see the little hungry fighters coming up really from the cracks in the street, but you never really expect them to have what is almost a British style. Lovely broad shoulders, well built for a middleweight, but he knows Hagler's reputation. Marvin Hagler, 52 fights, 148, drawn 2, and reversed the decisions in those drawn fights, and now he wants to get on to fight Antuofermo again for the championship. But somewhere along the line, we hope that he can give Alan Minter a rematch. But whatever way you look at it, it's certainly going to be a hard night's work for Alan, because this fellow really knows the business, has a great versatility of punches, uppercuts particularly, slips punches well and hooks hard all the time, and really built like an air raid shelter. I think the worry for the Venezuelan has never been above the 10 rounds limit, and having to stay 15 is going to be a problem with this tough guy from Massachusetts. When I say tough guy, when he did some inter-round summaries for World of Sport in South Africa, he couldn't have been more polite. And in replay then, in that second round, a big miss there, almost knocked over by the wind of that missed punch, isn't he, Hagler, by Obel. But he's boxed away from home a lot, fully Obel. He's been in Mexico a couple of times and he's won 2 fights in Italy. But to do it in Boston with this fellow is a different game. And once again in replay then, you're almost in there with them, but there's more misses than hits. Into round 3, and I think he rather sought the sanctuary of the ropes there, fully Obel, trying to use the height with the left jab. Must be a difficult man to fight at 6'1". He really so well proportioned. He must have hollow legs to come in at 11 stone 6 pounds. Hagler so cool and collected before this fight. Really wants to reign as champion for a long time. Took a long time to get there at 28. Some of them have retired at that age in this game, but Hagler had to plod his way hard through all the divisions. Well, in the early rounds, not a walkover indeed for Hagler. No question, this fellow Obel, or Obelmejias, his correct name, can box a bit. And I would imagine that the referee here from Mexico has seen him in action, because he works all the time in Mexico when not appointed by the World Boxing Council, although this fight, of course, is for both championships. Venezuela knocked out Rudy Robles in the 4th round, hits the fellow who went the full limit with Alan Minter in his pre-World Championship days. That was at Wembley. All kinds of challenges lining up for Hagler now, so he's got to make this one count. Mustafa Hamsho from New York, a Syrian, he's in line. There's a Korean who wants to fight him, but it looks like the likely match is Vito Antuofermo in Boston. Antuofermo had facial repairs, plastic surgery around the eyes, so that he can be fit to fight this fellow after losing to Minter at Wembley. Well, I tell you, you need more than repairs around the eyes. You need a steel helmet when you fight Marvin Hagler. Two wins over Kevin Finnegan, Marvin Hagler, both on cut decisions here in Boston. He didn't have Finnegan down, which is great credit really to Kevin. Good boxer anyway, as we all know, but Hagler couldn't get him down, but he really did cut him up, as he did with Alan Minter at Wembley. So it's a searching start then for the champion in his first defence. Referee scoring there with the appointed judges, handing the scorecards out between rounds. Fully Obel, 28 then on New Year's Day from Venezuela. Good boxer who's had to go around the world really to get his top ranking. San Diego, Mexico and Italy. And Hagler, the hard man from Massachusetts. Into round 4. And Hagler finding it just difficult to reach this challenger. He's got to tuck himself inside those left-hand punches and use the counters now. The thing with Hagler, he absorbed such a good punch. That's what championship fighting is all about. You have the ability, you have to have the heart and the durability to go with it. By sheer hustle and by crowding, Obel is just about getting on top now. Hagler, he finds now that the left hands are not hurting, and more or less afford to ignore them. They all hurt, really, but if you're in shape, they don't count so much. And I think these fellows are just slightly better in shape than I am. Almost say physically perfect for the middleweight division, aren't they? No question about it. Hagler particularly ride these punches from the shoulders, and there it is now. He's ready for the war of attrition. He knows that the Venezuelan hasn't been beyond 10 rounds, and he's trying to catch up with him before that. And Marvin Hagler turning it on just as they thought he would, the Bostonians cheering the house down. Obel, not having had to sign for a 15 rounds fight before, must be wondering how long he can carry this one on. What an explosive fighter, and what a talented fighter, Marvin Hagler. Gets into a rhythm as he throws those punches. As if he isn't fearsome enough, shaving the head to be able to slip inside the other fellow's gloves makes it even tougher. And it's the first time that the crowd have really had something to cheer about. Hagler's taken stock of this fellow, and in replay you can see the perfect punches coming over there. All those short hooks that really count. Just look at that. He's now got inside, made up for the advantage in reach. Working a bit on the body to make sure the head's going to fall. Surprisingly, fully Obel out early for work. Start of the 5th. And it's going to be work indeed. He's had it all his own way, really, in his career, and now he's realised he's up against the champion, and what a tough one. And I suppose in some respects, looking back, Alan Minter may have just undersold Marvin Hagler a little bit, having shaken him so well at Wembley at the start, rushed in a little bit reckless, and I'm afraid Hagler was waiting for him and cut Alan up. The volume of Hagler's punches must knock the heart out of any challenger. Notice how he even did the crisscross defence there, covered himself up as he wanted to move into close quarters, because he knows that the Venezuelan needs length. He can't punch close, he needs width. Crowd demand, knock the heart out of him. What a good championship fight this is. Even those fellows arguing about a seat in the background can be ignored here by the champion and challenger for saying, hey mate, what's this all about? Punching with the speed of a couple of flyweights with a middleweight build, 11 stone, 6 pounds, looking, well, really like cut-down heavyweights, aren't they? There's the uppercut there, trying that precise, Hagler. But full marks to Fully Obel, plenty of guts, not found wanting at all. Just rocking under those punches now, Fully Obel. As I said, had it all his own way in Italy, but really under fire in America. Boxed on the West Coast, but this is the first time he's been on the East Coast, where the tough fighters come from New York, Philadelphia and Boston. Hagler never claimed to be a single punch expert, but he really wears the man down, no question about that. So pleased to get on that stool at the end of that round, Fully Obel. Well, I must say, seems to justify the number one position, but he's saying to his seconds, what was that all about? And in replay, there you know, there you are. You're in there with them, and you know how punishing this game can be. So into round 6, and Hagler now getting on top, wearing the challenger down. And you really need, well, what, a hammer or a shotgun to stop this man coming at you like this. Sheer fitness and the way that he throws punches, and he almost went down there from a half a dozen punches saying, well, what was that all about? I've never been hit like this before, looking for a friendly face among the crowd, and he won't find too many of those in Boston. They're on their feet. Well, they keep telling me the fights are not what they used to be, but I don't remember middleweights who threw more punches at this at the peak of their career. This is almost like an old-fashioned Henry Armstrong grown into the middleweight limit. Really windmill style coming from Hagler now. He knows he's got the man on the hook. Taken away the advantage of Fully Obel's reach. To be impressed the way Hagler switches from head to body whenever he wants, prepared to miss occasionally because he knows he's going to get home when it counts. There it is. And is Obel going to survive this round? Yes, he is. He's fighting back well. Well, full marks for guts. Can afford to put those punches together, Hagler, without all his power in them. Just keep wearing the opponent down, making the hands fall. Well, I mean, how do you really get in there and try and feint to a freight train when he's coming at you like this? You really can't jab and move. He catches up with you. You really can't want more action than this in a world championship. Well, I'm surprised that Obel hasn't tried to use the ring, get away from here, because once he's trapped on his ropes, that's the lot. And he really walks to a neutral corner there, totally bemused. And the seconds are not exactly helping him to sit down. They should have had him on the stool before that. And Hagler saying, well, it's only a question of time, with the Petronelli brothers in the corner, who worked with him, of course, at Wembley, reviving Obel. I'm surprised at that, because they're not allowed to use those ammonia capsules. And in replay, get an idea of the rhythm of Marvin Hagler's punches. You'd think he weighed 8 stone, not 11 and a half. He doesn't mind missing this some. Even the wind of the missing of those punches is liable to knock Obel over. And yes, just a glancing punch on the chin was enough. So the Mexican referee, Mayran, checking that Obel understands what it's all about at the start of round 7. Hagler making sure the challenger has no room to work at all. They could put a handkerchief on the canvas and they could fight off of that. They don't need the whole size of the ring. Well, there's no question about it. Minter does have his problems, doesn't he? If he does get a return with this fellow, he's got to stand and box and move, and that's so much easier said than done. It's apt in many ways that Hagler comes out of Brockton, Massachusetts, because this is the way that Rocky Marciano from that town used to wear his opponents down. Although Rocky, in the heavyweight division, could take a man out with one punch. Hagler doesn't pretend to, but I tell you what he does, he makes him do some funny things standing up. And Fully Obel really losing control now, has no chance at all of keeping this man off. Good puncher, has knocked out quite a lot of useful contenders on the way up. But now floundering in the 7th. Hagler just will not give them the breather that they're looking for. So Obel then won 28 of his 30 fights inside the distance, and now a knockout really is his only chance of winning, and that looks 100 to 1 against. But what does a second say here to the man? Do the best you can. It must be frustrating for cornermen. And it's almost as if they're dismissing the office cares there, isn't it, for Hagler in that corner? And this man really, nobody knows the troubles he's seen at the moment, and he still has so many rounds to go. But how long can he last? The end of the 7th round. Carrying that swab stick in his mouth there is not going to help Obel, because he isn't cut. The second doesn't have to do that. So out early for work again, which surprises me from the challenger. I would have preferred to stay on the stool all night, I think. Round 8, and Marvin Hagler then, the undisputed middleweight champion of the world, in full swing. And probably not only thinking about trying to stop this fellow, but wondering who he's got to fight next. And it's all over, surely. The right hand on the chin, the legs have gone, and the referee, Octavio Moran from Mexico, says that's enough. And quite rightly, what a good decision by the referee not to allow him to take too much punishment for the man they call Marvelous Marvin, with an L missing by Al Spelling, retains the WBC and the WBA championship with the green belt.
And if you joined us during that fight, watching it with me was the former world champion, Alan Minter. Alan, you've got one of those green belts too, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got it, yeah. I thought they were going to take it away from me, so I hid it under my bed and made out I lost it, but I've still got it indoors.
And you got it after winning it, not after the first defence?
I got it for winning it, and I still kept it for making the defence. Yeah.
Right. Now, let's get your first impressions of that fight, first of all.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was a fabulous fight by Marvin Hagler. He looked unbeatable watching him there against Fulgencio Obel, but what you've got to understand, Obel lacks experience. The man's a big banger. He knocks opponents out early, but when he's made the fight 3 minutes of each round, then it finds him out. And, you know, I mean, he was going fabulous until the 4th round, then he started having a fight, and it was just a matter of time.
Let's look back to that 4th round now, because that's when things started to go wrong for the challenger, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, from the 1st round to this 4th round, Obel was boxing him, keeping out of the way, moving around the ring. Then a couple of seconds gone in the 4th round, he stood still, looked to his corner, and it was a matter of time. Hagler just started powering on and fighting him, as if to say, OK, Obel, you want to fight, I'm the champ, let's see you fight me. And then it was all downhill from then on.
He'd stayed off, he'd boxed for those first 2 rounds, did exactly the right thing.
Yeah, in fact, Obel did what I did against Hagler. He stood and had a fight with him, which you played right into his hands. I think by moving, the only way to beat a Marvin Hagler, now I've watched this film a couple of times and I've watched my fight with Hagler, is to be 100% fit and box him and keep boxing him. Don't get involved at all. Or be like an Antifermo, where you're small, you're low down, you're bobbing and weaving, and the man can't get you.
In fact, those words were almost mirrored by Sugar Ray Leonard, because after the fight he said no one is going to knock out Hagler. Yeah. They're going to have to beat him on points over 15 rounds for that title.
Yeah, well, I think if you catch a man on the chin, no matter who he is, you knock him out. If you remember when I fought Hagler at Wembley, I was cut in the 1st round, I had a bad cut in the 2nd round. The man was going great guns. Then all of a sudden I caught him with a left hook in the 2nd round and he went. The man's legs wobbled and I thought, that's it, I've got him. And I've called him in, come on son, come and take my title. And he'd come in. It was too soon in the fight. I think if I would have caught him with the same punch in the 8th, 9th or 10th round, I think I would have done him. But,
so where do you think, I mean, that's where you made the big mistake come in, but where do you think he is vulnerable? What are his great vulnerabilities?
I think honestly stamina. Because you see him throw a lot of punches there, but what you've got to understand is that when the champion's catching you with a lot of punches and not being hit himself, he must feel $1 million, mustn't he? He must think, oh, the man can't hurt me, here I'll go, you know. But I think if you hit the champion and you hurt him, and this is what you've got to do, you've got to hurt the man, then he starts running out of stamina.
But better that you do that towards the end of a fight, obviously.
Of course, I mean, the first 5 or 6, maybe 7 rounds, run, box, you know, behind the jab, don't get involved whatsoever. As he starts tiring, then you can take over.
You told me before that he said after he'd fought Antifermo, it was a draw, of course, he didn't win that fight, that he had to go and learn again. Is that the way you feel now?
Well, after the Antifermo fight, he said, I thought I won it, but now I've got to go back to school. Well, I lost to Hagler, and I've gone back to school. I've gone back to school to find out where I went wrong. I know where I went wrong, but to put things straight.
I said it before the fight, and linking into it, that you'd blamed a lapse in judgment for your defeat in that fight, not during the fight itself in those early rounds, but also before it. You regret those comments, for example, that you made saying that you were not going to lose the title to a black?
Sure, you know, it's just something I said which I never meant anyway. But anyway, when I see the Hagler and Antifermo fight, you know, I'm in the dressing room, I'm loosening up, and I thought, well, he couldn't beat Antifermo, and I destroyed Antifermo. And I was feeling so strong and $1 million at that particular time. I honestly thought and believed that Hagler could not beat me. And I thought, well, I thought about 3 or 4 rounds I would destroy him, but he destroyed me.
So concentration has to be retained right the way through.
Absolutely. You know, what it boils down to is underestimating your opponent, which you should never do in boxing, no matter who they are, no matter if it's the easiest fight in the world. And that's what I'd done to Marvin Hagler. I thought the guy could never beat me, and he'd done it.
I'd say that you relish the return, Alan. I'm sure you do.
Sure, you know, I need a return with the man because it happened so quick. It took me 17 years to be the champ, and then I lost it in 2.5 rounds. And, you know, I was absolutely choked, and all my fans were choked. But I've got a lot to prove, and I think the man owes me another shot.
Are you convinced that you can beat him, or you just want to give a better performance?
No, don't get me wrong. Honestly, if I didn't think I could... See, after losing to Marvin Hagler, people in the public have been fantastic to me. It's no good me fighting the man again and losing, because then I would be dropped out by everyone, I think. I honestly believe, well, I'm always fit, but the right tactical battle against Marvin Hagler, sure, honestly, I think I can link.
When are you going to fight him? Do you yet know?
Well, there's talk of him fighting a Korean shortly, in the next couple of months. Then he wants to return with Antifermo.
That's May, if Antifermo's fit.
But Antifermo's just had plastic surgery on his eyes, and it's still a little bit raw. So maybe if Antifermo can't make it, they might want to go with me, so...
But in any case, you should be able to fight him by September, they say.
Yeah, please, God.
What are you going to do in the meantime?
Well, I'm looking for another fight before. You know, I've had a nice 4 or 5 month rest, and I think another shot, you know, I've had some offers from America.
What about offers in this country?
And, well, we're seeing the big promoters of Wembley and...
Simpson?
No. I mean, not even thought about him. All I'm interested in is a nice, tough warm-up fight, and then the big one again.
We look forward to the warm-up fight. We look forward to the big one more than ever. Alan, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Dickie. Lovely.